This is the third day of the November 91 7-day retreat at Springwater. Here are some of the questions that I wrote down. As I was walking through the woods this morning, I was aware of the leaves and the trees and sky. And then there was the longing to get attention, to get loved, which I have had as long as I can remember. Can this longing for attention really ever end? It is amazing that when there is no feeling of a self-center, thoughts that do come up can be perceived as directly as the sound of the radiator, the ticking of the clock, the breathing. When one is open oneself, how is one to be with people who are closed and involved in their own problems, not in touch with this moment? Is it even worth it to spend time with people like that? Can we look at anger? At times I find I don't want to question anything because I want to stay asleep, comfortable with my old habits. I would like you to have your eyes open when you talk and sit quietly while you talk. You asked yesterday in your talk, do you see that? But you didn't look to see whether anyone saw. I feel this to be a contradiction. You said that moods are contagious, so is it best not to spend much time with closed mind-driven individuals? How does one deal with such people? What about the heart in all of this? When I hear you talk about questioning without looking for answers, I feel fear. It's probably the fear of the unknown. What is the unknown? I may wish to question my anger, but when I'm all involved in it, I rather want to discharge it and get that release than look at it. Then later there's guilt and the resolve to do better next time. But can one look at anger while it is not yet discharged? You brought up trying to be good yesterday morning, as if we are programmed to set goals, especially goals imposed by others. I have so much confusion about wanting, needing, being someone different than I find myself at this moment. It seems as if wanting is the cause of all these problems. can we ever be without wanting? How does this all tie in to separateness and oneness? The tree and the rock are one, though different. How can we be one as long as we are concerned with the I? Maybe we'll take two questions first. One came in duplicate almost. The question about how to be with people who are closed up. When one feels open oneself. The other question is, why do I talk with my eyes closed? Could I open them up? Which I'm doing right now. Partly it's a habit over many years. But just right now, I didn't even look at everybody. To look at everybody would take considerable time after everything I've said. And there's a difference between looking at everyone, looking, how did they take this? Did they understand this? Do they like what I say? Do they nod their approval or shake their heads? Or look, I remember one time while I was away here looking up during a talk, and it looked as though some of the people were hypnotized. And there may be my interpretation of it, but it was a strange look, and I responded to that right away, and I thought, why did I do that? To experiment with it yourself. When you're trying to really explain something or talk about something that you don't want to come out mechanical, automatic, but that you're looking at right now. You're looking at it and allowing the words to come to explain it, to put it into words, as accurately as possible. And see whether it isn't easier when the eyes are closed, when no extra input from 40 people, which means 80 eyes, is coming at you. Also, it eliminates this feeling, here I am and here everybody listening. There's much more togetherness in this not looking at everyone and everyone listening. Is everyone listening? I don't know. I can't assume it. Now, when I say, do you see this? I'm wondering myself. I'm not checking up on people whether they're seeing or not. It's up to each one. It can't be commanded or demanded or provoked through friendly eye contact. And if we were all blind here, we were blind people meeting together, the one who's talking blind and the one who's listening blind, we could still see something. Maybe not colors and outlines of trees or people or the knots in the floor. But see that when there's no self-centered, things are clear. And when a self-centered thought comes in, things narrow down. The clarity or spaciousness is gone. That can be seen without looking at each other or looking at anything. That it can be seen to be so. Find out for yourself. This can't all be explained. And not very well described. I don't know about yourselves, I feel in very close contact with everyone, even though I'm not looking at everyone. And the contact is that of looking and listening together. The fact that I move around, this is how it happens. Some people say, I love the fact that you move around and don't sit still. Others feel, sit still, don't move around. Then best thing to close one's eyes. Actually, in this whole process of looking and talking, it's not just from the vocal cords on up, the whole body is involved in this. At least that's how I feel. And we're not trying here to impose new disciplines upon each other, even though we have requested for the timed sittings not to leave or come in. There's a long thing there on the bulletin board. People must have read it because there wasn't that this morning. And during the untimed sittings to move quietly and not prepare tea. Because most people come here for a really quiet time. Not that we worship this or enforce it, we don't. But if we begin to get the feel of it ourselves, then maybe it's not so hard to tune in and let our own movements come out of this silence. Wait in silence till the bell rings. There's so much to be heard and felt and seen when there's this quietness, which is so rare in our life, almost completely absent most of the time. I do appreciate the people letting me know what they feel and not being afraid to say things to me. If they're critical of something, then to say that. I'm not hurt about that. I'm interested, and this gives me another opportunity, or a new opportunity to look again at my own habits. This question about how is one with people who are closed, if one feels open oneself. Who are these people who are closed? Isn't oneself one of those people most of the time? And maybe for the time that there's openness, one wants everybody to be that way. And yet what this work is all about is in a state or a moment of openness to be with what is closed, to be with people. This is what this work is all about. To meet each other as we are. And maybe if there is openness, to begin to understand each other. With an open heart. Somebody's saying, where's the heart in all this? I don't know where it is. Is it there? Open? Not to judge people for their closedness. There's enough space in this universe for everyone, just the way we are. Is it worth my time to spend time with people who are... I don't ask this question. I wouldn't be working. This is what this is all about. To meet each other as we are, if somebody desires to meet. Somebody says, leave me alone, I don't want to see anybody, I don't run after anyone. But what is closedness in oneself and in others? Not to assume because there's some openness that there's complete openness. There's so many hidden things we're attached to, we're holding on to, we're afraid to lose. Someone yesterday said, I'm finished with attachment to my original religious group, but am I building up new images about myself as a special person, having abandoned what seems divisive and separating? And if there is such an image coming up, which happens all the time, because this is what the brain does, build images of oneself and others, so it doesn't have to look all the time. It's easier to just relate to the video, the images. And at that moment there's closedness, thinking I'm someone special who has transcended division or so. It's the ultimate of separation. The I doesn't transcend anything. It perpetuates itself all the time through new garbs, new roles, new images. I, the open one, they, the closed ones. That's already a statement that comes out of a closed area of the mind. And when mind and heart is open in meeting someone, we talked about it the other day, and at the checkout counter, the clerk ringing up the groceries, does one see her or him? Or is one so busy with one's own affairs, or want to get through this darn line and get out of there? And here's somebody ringing up the groceries, putting them in the bag. Is one in touch with this person? It's not a question of whether it's worthwhile or not. One doesn't even know whether the person is open or closed. Maybe more open than oneself. Open to a friendly hello. How are you today? Or whatever. I don't mean in a mechanical, put on a smile way, but from the heart. One is there. And when one is there and not someplace else ahead of oneself or behind in the past, then the heart is open to people and things around us, to the sky and the winds drifting across the parking lot. Caw, 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 caw. How and when does the mind and heart open? Who knows that? Nobody does. Anybody who has prescriptions for it and timetables, I would be very suspicious of. It can happen to anyone at any time. Somebody told me yesterday at some time, in the midst of swirling thoughts, suddenly it emptied out and there was a deep quiet. And nothing had been done to produce it. On the contrary, there were swirling thoughts. And in greeting someone at the counter, or someone standing in the line with one, openly, not trying to impose oneself or one's good mood, just out of the fullness of one's heart. Does the other's heart then stay closed? Often at a moment like this, we meet, don't we? Saying hi to each other. It's a nice day. It doesn't mean one has to start converting people to come to the Springwater Center to sit retreats. That, for some reason, which is unfathomable to me, happens pretty much on its own. Of course, there's some book out and people talk to each other. Somebody reads something, a newsletter article, or hears somebody talk. Not everybody responds to that, but some people do, and so they come here. We don't have to go out and have campaigns, missions to get people to come here. I would never ever agree to anything like this. The work is too difficult, too hard. Facing oneself as one is, in all of one's prejudices and blindnesses and stucknesses and self-righteousness and defensiveness. I'm mentioning those things because it's not hard to face oneself in joy. And then one just wants to stay like that forever. But to see the ugly stuff, people are really suffering from this. It's very hard, painful. Like one person saying, at the moment I see what's going on in myself, I want to be something else. I want to be better. And in examining it in a meeting, yesterday it was a group meeting, did it become clear that the conflict with the way one is, not liking it, hating it, wanting to be better, isn't that part of the pain, maybe the biggest part of the pain? The tension, the agony, the suffering from not being the way I thought and imaged myself to be. Good and nice and not envious and not greedy, and here I see all of this coming up. So, being hard as it is, hard to face, because we don't know how to face something freely, facing something freely about in oneself is not comparing it to an image, but just seeing it without image, just seeing what's there, and not wanting it to be otherwise, which means not resisting it automatically. We've learned to automatically resist or brace against what we feel as bad, painful, uncomfortable. All of this the body has learned over the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Does it automatically. And that causes pain because the normal flow of organism is interrupted or is impeded by bracing against itself, resisting its own processes which were evoked through thought, fearful thought, angry thought. And now the anger at being angry compounds all of the smooth operation of this organism. So, is it possible, since we're talking about it, we're questioning it, 2 together, 5 together in this group here. I'm not talking at you, we're questioning this together, aren't we? Whether it's possible to see greed in oneself, or anger, or jealousy, hatred, and just see it for what it is, dropping the label and seeing how it affects this whole organism. The choking feeling, head maybe full of blood, muscles tensing, the solar plexus like zapped, intestines maybe churning, the stomach feeling queasy, all of this, to feel that at the thought of somebody else is more likable than I am. And not look away. And not make anything out of it either by saying, well, that's human nature to be jealous. The poets have written about it. So I'm just like, all of this elaboration that happens just to avoid facing the bare fact of this moment. A thought of not being likable or somebody else being more likable, arousing what we label as jealousy or anger or hatred, and listen to how this body responds to the past thought and responds when that thought keeps going and elaborating. Because this is what keeps anger, jealousy, envy, whatever, that keeps it continuing, that the thought about everything continues. Can you watch that? Can we watch that? See that? Learn about this. That what is called commonly these days negative thoughts produce all kinds of moods in this body. And the perpetuation of negative thoughts, how things should be but aren't, and how bad people are to me or how bad I am, the continuation of these negative thoughts continues the mood. By mood I mean the whole feeling of this physical organism and mind, which are not two. And then the thought, I shouldn't feel this way, I hate to feel this way, which now is setting, it's like civil war inside. The body fighting the body over itself, over what it does. I hate to feel this means I'm not in agreement with the body having responded the way it has, dutifully, to hateful thoughts. And the conflict aggravating the discomfort. And then the thought, I don't want to be like this, I don't want to be a hateful person. Or I'm not even admitting it, denying it, clinging to the image of being a loving person. Then the body does not have opportunity to come to a smooth balance again, which it does when no further thoughts impinge upon what has already been aroused. Further thoughts being, I don't like it, I'm justified to be this way, I am this way, I'm not this way, better than others, worse than others. Can one listen in and hear that without judgment? In a state of open listening. Friendly listening, we called it yesterday. Friendly meaning, whatever is there, let it be heard and seen and not suppressed or elaborated through storyline. This is how the body-mind may quiet down. Something else may come up and get it all upset again, but one can watch again. The person asking, at the height of anger, I feel a tremendous pull toward discharge, the pleasure of discharging, the release of it. And then I don't want to look at this anger. I want the discharge, the pleasure. One has already observed something to have found that out. But what one also finds out if one keeps observing, and we talked about that, there was quite agreement among us that the anger that has been discharged has consequences, can be very destructive. One has hurt other people's feelings, and that has set something in motion. Eventually their anger will be released upon us or someone else. By which we're not saying don't be angry. We're just looking at what happens in a non-judgmental way, non-directive. So having learned this over time, over years, maybe there's an interest to see whether there can't be listening and awareness right at the first angry thought before it has spilled all over this body. Maybe it can, maybe they can't. We have to find out. It's possible. It's possible that before the word has gone over the vocal cords, there's some seeing and the whole organism calms down very quickly. If it's not seen, it spills over. Then is it seen in the spilling? There's never too late to look. Never too late to come to. Unless immediately as the thought, oh my God, I've lost it. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And then there's no observation. So let's say the anger has flared up. Anger has been. Angry words have been spoken intensely. How long does it have to be kept up? It's come out and it can be done with very quickly. If the person one has gotten angry at is also interested in being done with it quickly, looking at it and not making a big thing out of it, then the thing is as though it hadn't happened. It's finished. Doesn't have to carry it around. What he did, what she did, what he said, what she said. The nerve of him or her, and he always does it, and you know how one keeps this lingering, festering resentment going. Can one be aware of that kept going resentment through lingering thoughts and wonder whether that has to continue or whether it can dissolve in the bright sunshine of a new day, which has fresh clouds, fresh air, maybe freshly polluted air. So if one feels stuck in a mood, an angry, resentful, or depressed mood, we talked about it yesterday. It feels stuck, it doesn't move. What's going on? What is happening? Will one want to find out? Give kindly attention to this state? It needs some quietness, some time. Like someone yesterday said, I had some time to look at conflict. I wasn't pressured. And looking at it, staying with it, meaning just allowing it to show itself. Something was revealed. What was revealed was the inner command, I ought to be good, I ought to be better. But that command was not powerful. It was seen and therefore a release, a relief at discovering what it is that causes conflict or festering moods, depressions, resentment. Does one have the time to spend with it? Like with a member of a family, a sick child, just being there with him, with her, without pressure, and watching, not knowing what this thing is, but listening, tuning in. In the beginning, nothing may reveal itself. Maybe if one pressures it and says, okay, go on, reveal yourself, I've got 5 minutes. to let it blossom in silence, do its thing in quiet spaciousness. You could say, well, where do I find it in my daily life? But whatever we really need, we do find. There's some time when, if there's family there, people one lives with, a lot of noise, there's some time when it's quiet. Usually early in the morning. Maybe one has a good enough relationship with the people one lives with, family or friends, or that one can say, I need some quiet time. I'm not mad at you. I like being with you, but all right, I just need some quiet time. Because something is bothering me and I need to be with it and find out what it's all about. And then find what we were talking about, the resistance against it and so forth. Find out. And let it use up all the space. And yet the hammering is there too, or people moving, a car passing by, or the refrigerator running. Maybe a bird singing, or the branches crackling in the winds, that's all there too. The breath is there. The heart is beating. If one is very upset, maybe the heart is beating irregularly, pounding. To listen to all of that, to that whole universe of happening. You see, coming back to the question, how to be with people who are closed. We are these closed people, and we are the open people. There's not the separation as it seems. How are we with someone who just chats on and on superficially about himself or hatefully about the others, griping about things in the world? One happens to be there together. One doesn't seek each other out, but there we are together in the same room. How does one listen? To every word the person says, reacting to everything, or spaciously? There's much more in this universe than this organism and that organism right now sitting here griping or talking together. There's vast space of nothing filled with everything. Can we be in tune with more than my openness and your closedness? In deep touch in which there is love, affection, and respect for the lostness of each other, how lost we get. By respect, I mean not critical of it or condemning of it, but understanding of it. How quickly any one of us can get lost in some gripe or anger or envy. And how quickly it can also be seen and dissipate. That's the wonder of it all. Yesterday, I may have been angry at you, but today, where is that anger? Oh, I keep thinking about it and think I ought to pay back and make him feel how it feels to be angry, then the thing continues. But it doesn't have to. Those thoughts don't have to come up when there's in touchness with sunshine and space and people here. Hammering and birds and the leaves on the ground. Branches full of new buds, which may never see the spring. Who knows? We don't know. They're there now. we will end here for today.